This is episode 191. I've done Shrek like 18 times. At least 18. No more, no less.
Well, if it's at least, then that's
at least it's the tone control. Woo!
Oh, bing, 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 bing. We don't have the bell because Justin has it and he's not here. It's a very special tone control. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Good?
Good.
Welcome to the tone control, ladies and germs. I just realized Justin has my bell from the last time I was in Cincinnati. So this is going to be it. This is the bell-free episode of the tone control because Justin's away. As you heard last time, Mark, Justin's dad, was diagnosed with liver cancer, very unfortunately. So today was a big surgery, and it was a big deal for Clan Justin. So he's taking the day off, but I have an update. Mark is doing very well. So they're out of surgery and everything's looking great. It's just a crazy day, really hectic, very stressful, obviously, but everyone's feeling much better. There is much relief. So tone control family, you can exhale now.
That's good.
Yes. So joining me now is Eric, friend of the show and patron, Eric Giwawaldi.
Whichever name you want it to be, you can kind of just pick one and just that can be it for a week or two.
So that's fine. It's Eric and Derek. It's the tone control.
We didn't make that connection. That's funny.
We should have done that.
We should have.
But yes, so we're here. It was kind of like a hectic day for me at work.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we've got this podcast tonight. Things are a little different. Worrying about Justin and the family and stuff. And like, then the message comes in from Justin like, hey, everything's looking great. We're feeling good. And I was like, oh, what a relief. So the positivity is flowing here at Tone Control HQ. And what do we call your house? Like Tone Control Annex. How about that?
Yeah, sure. Part 2.
You're right. Tone Control Part 3, I guess.
Part 3, yeah. The return.
The return. The
Well,
control.
that'd be Part 2, I suppose.
The sequel.
So
anyway,
sequel.
That's the pre-sequel.
The pre-sequel.
So yeah, things are a little bit different today. We did not want to organize a show based around gear news because, things are different. So let's just lean into having a guest host, so to speak.
Is there any gear news? Like, are we missing out on anything this week?
There's really, one thing that is in my show notes, but I do want to save it for when Justin's here because I think he's going to have some things to say.
Damn.
And plus, it's not even out yet. It's just like a press release. So we'll wait. Hopefully next time the thing will actually be out. But I want to start very quickly. I don't have any of the gear that Justin has to run this show the way that we run it. So real quick, this episode is not going to be video rich on YouTube. It will be on YouTube, but it will just be a logo.
You can skip this one.
Yeah, we're not recording video this time. So just deal with that. And yeah, I guess that's kind of really the only detail. No pedal demos. I don't have my guitar hooked up. What else? It's just going to be a straight up hashtag deal with it, as Doug says in the chat, recording session.
If that's going to be their gripe, then I think they're probably not our target audience to begin with.
Well, we used to our target audience. Okay. We used to say
I've been here, 5 minutes?
Yeah, taking over. We used to say like, oh, if you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. But now that we have a Patreon, that's not actually true.
You can't say that anymore.
We can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, real quick, I guess, thank you to Pedal Genie for sponsoring the tone control. I still have my pedal from last time, but we're not going to demo it today. Again, back to normal scheduling next episode. But yeah, we have a Discord, and if you're not in it, you're fucking up. So join the Discord. It's discord.io/tone control. and it's a good gang of folks, including Eric. And we were talking a bunch in Discord, and one of the questions recently from just a guy, a cool dude in the Discord, asked about gigs. Like, what do we do about gigs? And we're always talking about gear and tone and like crap like that, you know? And we don't actually talk about the work, I think that is why you have all those things. Yeah, like why you have all those pedals and why you care about tone is because you're a guitarist and like what is it you're doing as a guitarist and stuff. So I thought it was a good chat in Discord. This was like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember the chat. What's funny is I remember the day distinctly. I was like running around doing errands all day and I couldn't really chime in a whole lot. So this is kind of funny how this like worked out because now I have my chance to do all the chiming in that I missed out on.
Right. And you messaged me like if there's ever a podcast episode about gigs, I demand to be featured. And you know, I had known that this I had known this break in Justin's schedule was coming. I was like, this is it. This is the perfect time. Especially I think now that now that the world is kind of opening back up. Yeah. And gigs are becoming available, it's certainly something to talk about.
It's like a hot topic again. We talked about it a lot when it was going away, and now we can talk about it as it's coming back.
Yeah, yeah. So we threw the question out in Discord. Well, we threw the request out for questions, and we have a bunch, and I have a bunch also. So I just wanted to like preface this by like pointing out like, so who is Eric, right? Who is this schmuck that just shows up on the tone control and starts talking about gigs?
This guy changes his name once a week.
Right. Who is this clown? So that is my question. Who is this clown? I don't want to know. Nobody ever wants to know the answer to when did you start playing guitar. Yeah. But, you know, a quick rundown of like your musical background. And I want to point out also that Eric's one of I think the only active member in our community. I'm sure there are others that are listeners though. Who is a full-time guitarist. Like that is your job.
Yes.
And
capital J job. Right.
And that's an important distinction, I think, because the majority of guitar players are not professional guitar players. And, you know, it's a totally different game for you than it is even for me, who's just an informed hobbyist, basically, with some crummy podcast. So, tell us the background.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't remember. I think I'm going on my 17th or 18th year. And, you know, I started off the same way everybody else does. You know, you take lessons and you do whatever going through high school and all this stuff. And then I did end up going to college for music. I studied music performance at UMass Lowell. And I did that whole thing. And that's probably roughly about when I started to work. It wasn't anything too crazy work, but, you know, it was work all the same. I don't know how much we'll talk about this, but one of the other gigs that I do is I teach lessons too. So that's one thing that I think that's one thing that a lot of guys who do what I do probably do as well.
I was going to say, I think that qualifies as still being a professional guitarist. Cause like that, you make money from the instrument.
Right.
And even if that is like, it's not sales, you know, it's not, you're not working in a guitar store selling gear.
Some office job or something like that. Like a certain somebody I know.
Well, it's also not guitar sales. Like you're not working in guitar retail. You know, it's you're working in lessons, which I still think I would qualify that as counting.
Yeah, like I'm not a tech at like Guitar Center or something like that. Like so you know, I did that, and doing the school thing was great. I met some really great people. I studied with some really great teachers. Saw some really great performances. That was one of the cool things about being a music major is like one of your things that you do for credits is you have to see performances, and a lot of them happen right there at the school. But like you could also like there was like a list of like certified venues, if you will, that you could go and see a show and provide a ticket stub, and it would count towards your grade for the semester.
So that's interesting to me. Now, what do you do after that? Do you have to like prove that you were there, or like analyze it, or write some kind of paper? Or
so it's called Recital Hour, And like everybody, that's our, I guess for lack of a better word, that was our class that we all had to do. But at the beginning of every single recital that happened at the school, there were like these little slips that you would just kind of fill out with your name and like think like your, maybe like your, not your ID number, because I don't think anybody really had that memory, so just your name and, something else on it maybe, but that was it. And then you just literally like put it into like a shoebox at the at the end of the recital, and you got credited for being there that night or whatever.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it was, and you had to do, I think we all had to do 10 of them, I think, in the course of which, I mean, that's really not that hard to do.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, and it is if you wait around, but like, that's easy to do.
Nice. That's I never knew that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I did the school thing, and getting out of school, I was sort of like, I don't want to use the word lost, but it was like sort of like, like, okay, well, now what? And a lot of it just kind of, I feel like this is going to be the easy answer that like can dodge a lot of questions and can answer like a generalized question that gets asked. But like, I kind of just like did it. Like there wasn't really, I never sat down and was like, okay, so first I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to learn this song, and then I'm going to meet this person. Like it wasn't really planned out per se, as much as it just sort of happened. I don't want to, as cliche as it might sound, it did kind of happen naturally. One thing leads to another. You meet this person, they tell this person, and then you work with that person, and then this third person comes into the mix, and then you meet this guy on this gig, and you meet that singer on that gig, et
Doug's
cetera,
pointing
et cetera.
out in the chat that it like organically might be a better term. Like,
yeah,
it's not because I think that you still need the motivation to do it.
Yes,
which like maybe if you didn't have a plan. Yeah. If you didn't have a plan clear cut and written down necessarily, like, that's a different thing. Some people need that, but it sounds like you didn't, which is good.
Like I literally, like one of my first I guess I'll say one of my first big deal gigs, I actually got it off Craigslist, and I ended up doing it for 4 years. And I met some of the greatest people that I've worked with to date.
Nice.
Very good friends of mine. It was a great experience, and it sort of like got me started in the, like, I think you can probably do this with any local music scene, but like around here in, Massachusetts / New England, like, we all run in groups, you know what I mean? Like everybody knows another person depending on what music you play.
The even degrees if you of separation are pretty small.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And like, it's, word travels fast, man. Like, like you work with this person, and then they find, oh, I saw you played with this person and whatever. And you times that by 15 other people, and it just sort of goes from there. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, organically is a good word for it.
His follow-up comment is that saying naturally implies there was little to no effort. And I think that's a good distinction. It's a subtle distinction, but it's important.
I would agree.
It's like obviously you worked for it, and it's still going well. So
yeah, I mean, so far so good.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. I think I'm sure there are other people that listen to the show that do kind of what you do, but as far as the people we talk to on a regular basis, I still think you kind of carry the flag there. So just wanted to point it out. So
that's cool.
Questions. These are like the normal questions about like guitar people. And we can take as little time as we want for these low-hanging fruit questions.
I like fruit, though. I like low-hanging fruit. What's a low-hanging fruit?
I have this
like
bullet that says, gig survival. What is in your go bag?
Oh, my gig survival bag. Okay. Actually, what's funny?
Not like not pedals, not guitars, not like the stuff that comes with you.
Yeah, like all the stuff that you forget about until you need it.
Yeah.
Nice, Doug. Nice. Okay, so it's funny that we brought this up because I just recently redid my survival bag. I took it out at the beginning of COVID because I just, I didn't need it.
Yeah.
And it was also like physically, it was a terrible bag. Like it was literally falling apart, and I had to be like, I looked at it one day. I was like, okay, I got to make sure I redo that. But so I recently had to do this too. I had to run to CVS right before, like literally 10 minutes before a gig started to buy an extension cord. Oh. So step 1, extension cable.
Good.
2, power strip if you can get one. I also bought one of those because they happen to be right next to each other. And I was like, well, Why not?
Better to have than not need.
So like power is big. Like if you want to be the guy who has like the 100-foot power cable, then cool. Like, probably a normal size one will work, but like that's a little bit of a flex. But definitely power with like a,
Here comes Eric with his 100-foot extension cable.
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
But then, but we laugh. But like, I've been to places where it's like they point us to the other side of the room where the nearest outlet is, and it's like, bro,
what made you think this was okay?
yeah. And then, like, as we're trying to figure it out, like 15 minutes later, the manager comes over. Guys, we can just move you over to the other side of the.
Okay, good. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
So yeah, power is always there. Any sort of cable that you think you might or might not need is probably there too. I got, let's see, definitely strings. I mean, that should be, some of these are going to be layups.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Batteries. I know a lot of people like to carry tape. I don't have tape on me, I don't think, at the moment. I keep a lot of like guitar-based things. Like I think I have 2 capos in my bag just in case, and I don't use either one of them. Like I have one on the guitar already.
So there's 3 in your kit the whole time?
No. It's in my bag. Nobody can see it. I only have one capo that gets used.
That's fine.
Let's see what else. I have a notebook in there for it's like my. I guess you can call it my set list. I basically just write down notes because the main gig I do these days is acoustic duo stuff, and the singers I work with, they like to change keys a lot from the originals. So like keeping track of all the keys and stuff. Like so, I've kind of developed my own note system. But, cool. I just keep it in a little notebook. I have, I think my in-ears are in my gig bag for whenever I need those.
But I'm sure it's all like the usual things, extra cables, picks, strings, like all that garbage. I'm going to swoop in on a bunch of these questions because like I have gigs too, but they're a super different type of gig, which, I want to point out as well. Like I do like the 45 minutes every 2 weeks kind of gig.
There's all types of gigs these days.
Yeah, cool. and like so my thing is like original music local band thing with shorter set lists of pretty much exclusively originals, and yours is like the longer form sets with singer-songwriters or duo stuff doing covers primarily, correct?
Yeah, it's like 90-10 probably, 80-20 covers to originals.
So in my bag is stuff like strings, cables, picks, like all that garbage. A flashlight, then the flashlight on your phone, I don't really think counts. Get a good real flashlight. They make them very small. I have a great one that's USB rechargeable that I love, and it comes in handy so many times because the phone thing, it's like they're never that bright, and it's always it's your phone. And it's like annoying.
If you're doing a bunch of stuff, like you'll drop it. Like, and I'd rather drop a flashlight.
And you can't put your phone in your mouth and use both your hands.
Well, you could.
But for a flashlight, come on. So
then it's like stuff shining out of your cheek, and you look kind of weird.
Right.
You use the wrong end.
Yeah, you get your cheek closer over here. I also bring a marker usually because we tend to print out our set lists ahead of time, but it's because they're not whipped up on the fly. So if anything needs to change, I have a red Sharpie and
draw an arrow to this one, swap out this one, whatever.
So a couple of patch cables, a couple of power cables for my pedals, like from the brick to the pedal itself. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I used to bring like a ton of extra stuff. Like I occasionally bring an extra guitar. But usually we're a 2-guitarist band, so between the 2 of us, we bring 3 guitars typically.
That's good. Like that's perfect. That's a perfect number for the acoustic gigs. No way. I'd rather just, and I've had to. I just like tough it out for the rest of the set with 5 strings, and I'll just change it during the break. Like I don't think I don't
your gigs have a break.
Anybody. Yeah. I don't think anybody I know uses 2 acoustics for an acoustic gig.
I think maybe if you had to switch to DADCAD suddenly or something.
Maybe.
But maybe. Okay. Maybe. I like that. Sort of a 2-part, maybe not a 2-part, but I'm going to roll them together anyway. How do you get your type of gig? And then how do you practice for that type of gig?
How do we get my type? So my type of gig, I'm going to kind of maybe blanket statement as being like a freelance I need you to do leads over my singer-songwriter chord structure setup, or like a full band where I'm probably not the primary member who has to carry the
Hmm.
band in terms of like a chord structure either. So like there's at least one other person doing chord stuff. At
Okay.
that point, what I'll do is listen to the songs a little bit. At this point, again, I've been doing the same type of stuff for a long time, so the songs do repeat themselves after a while, and it's just sort of like, this band might do it a little bit differently than this band, but it's still Wagon Wheel. So like I can probably
Yeah.
figure it out.
Right. Okay. And I'm
Um,
sure with a lot of pop music that might come into your set lists as it comes out on the charts, you can probably detect a pattern pretty quickly.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is probably going to come up later on anyways, but like having a good ear to do this stuff really does help, because like
Dude,
I've had to
yeah.
figure this stuff out on the fly a lot. And I will say 9 times out of 10, it's not like a perfect go at it. Like I would have
Hmm.
preferred to have at least one other time through it, but that's not always the case.
Hmm.
To
Having a
prepare for
good
the other types
ear.
of gigs that I get,
Yeah.
and like how do I get them? Getting back to that part of the question, that's a big networking thing.
Hmm.
Doing the acoustic duo thing, and actually I've been talking about it. I talk about it in the Discord a lot. Like I started working with a new singer for this summer because I saw a post in a Facebook group that is filled with nothing but people who do what this singer and I myself as a guitar player are in. Like a bunch of people are in this group.
Hmm.
So it's just like, the Facebook group thing is a huge plus for stuff like this. It's like, hey, I'm looking for this person. It's like, oh, I do what you're looking for with this person. So maybe I could do it with this person too. So a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
it's networking. To get the
Hmm.
gigs, a lot of it's networking.
I'm sure social
Um,
media is a huge factor for that,
yeah, for sure. For sure. It's
more
it's
than
like,
just phone numbers and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like you don't really walk into guitar stores and see like phone numbers on a rip-off thing anymore. Like that's not really,
Yeah.
I just don't think, I mean, somewhere in the country that probably exists. And if you've gotten a gig off of that, then that's great. But I don't even
If
remember the
you've
last
gotten
time
a
I
gig off
saw
of that in the
something like
last
that.
10 years, then
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. There's just easier ways to do it now. And I think people who do music, we know a lot of people who do music. So like,
Hmm.
there's plenty of people to ask.
Yeah.
So getting them, a lot of it is these days, a lot of it's more based on stuff I've done with people already, more so than new people per se. Like, I have to go looking for new things sometimes.
Yep.
Every now and then new things find me, but a lot of times if you're looking for something new, you have to go find it yourself.
Right. I hate
And
that the
it might
answer.
go ahead.
So I was gonna say, unfortunately, I hate that the answer is like, "Oh, it's all who you know," but it really is
It
for a
really
lot
is,
of
though.
things.
Like it really is.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to like frame this like based on that conversation in Discord a few weeks ago, right? So you're getting started gigging. How do you start? And I think I would recommend starting with some friends because you don't have to worry about the networking at that stage.
Right.
And really go from there. It might spin off like, oh, friend of friend needs somebody. And then it can, like, that's your first network link, right? It can
Yes.
just grow from there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's how I ended up in my
literally,
band.
like, I feel like sometimes like it's not a big mystery. It really isn't just big like secret that like I'm not going to share with anybody, or like nobody knows until you're doing it. Like,
Yeah.
it really is that. Now,
I don't think it's a secret.
that's-
I think it's like that first step, like that, not step, but the first extension, that first like link removed from your circle is the thing, right? How do you
Yes.
find people that are not people you know personally? And
right.
that's
Yeah.
tricky to do. And that's why you
That is
need
tricky.
networks and social media and things like that.
Yeah, and we're kind of dodging like the elephant in the room. Like you do have to be good. Like no one's gonna remember. Well, let's see. This is the funny thing. So a teacher of mine told me this once. He's like, remember this. People are gonna remember you more if you're really bad than if you're really good.
Okay.
So, and I was
Okay.
like, oh, that's 100% accurate. So like, if you're super good, then yeah, like obviously they're gonna remember, and like, hey, this is someone who I could use again. But if you're also super bad, they also remember that for all the
That
wrong
sticks
reasons.
out worse almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it's like,
So like
just,
you do have to be really solid at what you do, and like, or I mean, being solid at what you do is one thing, but also like you just have to be like someone who's like easy to hang out with, because that's like Like playing well is like the eighth thing to worry about in some cases.
Interesting. Yeah.
In
Doug
some
says good
cases.
as expected, bad as memorable. That's a good
Yeah.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Right. And like also just be a goddamn professional, carry yourself. Like,
Yeah. Like be polite. Like it's so dumb. Just
yeah.
be a nice person to talk to and like don't be
Yeah.
too nosy and
Like, do your job, but don't be weird about it.
yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, we can like I feel like sometimes it's a little bit too businessy around some of the gigs that I do, but it's like, no, like we're just a bunch of like 30-year-old teenagers that are stuck playing songs that we don't necessarily love. Like
Yeah.
I used to work with this group that like we would literally poke fun of the audience on stage in front of them, like as they were watching us in some cases. And like that's I'm not saying that you should always do that, but
I kind of love
like,
it, but yeah, I know what you mean.
like don't do that in a way. If you're gonna do that, at least be discreet about it. But
Okay, so this was a question for both of us that came from Discord. That's the end of my stupid like boilerplate guitarist questions. Craig just dropped out. That's lame, but I think G-Arc is still here, and we're still
G-Arc is
recording
still
solo,
here.
so I think we're good. Do you plan on writing any solo music? And the question was posed to both of us, and I think it means for me, solo as in me and not my band. Maybe someday. I have like one thing out there I would like to do more, but there's like I just do so much better with other people.
you're not gonna be Derek
really-
and the Heidmans.
I really prefer the collaboration of other brains and just other people's ideas. The thing with
Yeah.
Delaney right now is like I'll tell you, the trick that works for us really well is one of us comes up with a riff, me or Matt, and this is how it's so far been. Just like I bring a riff to Matt. I'm like, here's a thing. I think this is cool. I record it, send it to him, and then he tries to learn it, but doesn't want to know how to play it. He doesn't want me to teach
Okay.
him how to play it. He
He
wants
just wants to kind of do it, and however
kind of
it
wants
comes
to
to him.
figure it out, and then in figuring it out, comes up with a really great accompanying part.
Gotcha.
Because it's like
Interesting.
not quite the same, but it's working out really well, and it's sort of stumbling our way through. So
So
That's
interesting
been the-
take on that real quick. I
Mhm.
feel like if that was in a different setting, you wouldn't be called back,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes,
So that's sort of contrary to some other ideas that have been floating around so far.
Right, but this is purely
Interesting
original
take.
music. So and like we're
Yeah.
writing new music here. So like that's the creative thing. So like
Right.
you're trying
like
for
we're
that.
talking, the distinction would be something that exists already versus something that doesn't quite exist.
Yeah.
completely.
And one of our new songs, it's like one of our favorites so far. He was like fumbling through it. And I was like, well, it's just this. Like, here, I'll show you. And he's like, no. Don't tell me. Like, it comes out better when you don't tell me. I'm
Wait. I love it.
So-
I love that.
As far as solo music, just me, maybe someday, not anytime soon. I feel like you and I have talked a little bit about whether or not
We
you
have.
write original music.
We have. Do you want to answer for? No, I got it. I'm just going to go ahead and say a big old no.
It's so interesting to me.
I want nothing to do with it. I want absolutely nothing to do with it. I would much rather, like I've been asked before a few times now, and it's like, and I will gladly sit down with someone who has, I guess we have to approach this from like a certain angle so I can kind of get my point across more. I guess I'm talking about like a person who comes to me and is like, hey, I have pretty much an entire song's worth of lyrics ready to go. Let's make this into music. Like I would be able to give you a chord progression of any kind that you would want and have it be semi-workable right out the gate. Like, I mean, that sounds, that's.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think the factor is.
But like,
well,
like
yeah,
this
but
is-
I feel like
we're not
I could do that
reinventing the
too.
wheel here.
I could do that too, but it's also like you just said like that you want. And I think the
Right.
difference is like if lyric person wants like it's what they're after versus like if somebody comes to me like when I'm working with Matt and it's like, well, I want my part to be this, and it is because I said so because I'm
Yeah.
writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have the bug. Like I don't have, I can't approach music from a standpoint, and I envy people who can, because like I can't separate myself from it enough to like get behind the idea of doing it. I don't have like the complete picture all in my head without it sounding like literally like cookie cutter version of something else that's in my head that sounds, or that like reminds me of it. So
I
it
see,
just,
yeah.
it never struck me as something that was super original for me, because I just always admired what was being done by others who have done it before me.
Mhm.
So like,
I get
and
that.
I don't have the whole picture in my head at all. Like I only have guitar, and like maybe drums.
I feel like you're
But like
right. I
everything
have like
else is sort
some,
of additive.
yeah, I get that. I have some kind of knack occasionally for like big picture arrangement stuff, and it comes out, there's no pattern to it. It just happens sometimes. I'm like, I've got vision coming out of my eyeballs. So, like, let's just go with this because I said it's going to be great. And then, sure enough, it's like usually really cool, but it doesn't
Yep.
happen always, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do with this part. What do you guys want to do? But every now and then, it's just like, I have this, like, I can feel it in the ether and I need to just grab it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly wish I had something like that in me. Like, I mean, I've dicked around with instrumental guitar stuff that requires like a looper and like four parts going at the same time. But 5 minutes into it, I'm just like, I'm done with this. I don't know. I can't like continue on into a complete thought and do that like 7 or 8 more times and call it an album.
Right.
And just,
Yeah.
I've never been able to. Never. I used to write like watered down dashboard confessional songs in high school, and I didn't like them because it was just like, I think I was trying too hard to do something. And from a different angle, I got a lot out of that, but it wasn't enough to be like, I want to continue this.
You learn a lot from that.
Yeah, you do.
And for me, like I tend to come up with singular riffs or chord progressions that I think are cool. That I'm like, this could be the progression for the chorus of a song. And if like this is the loop, we repeat it, and then this other section I feel like has kind of verse vibes or bridge vibes, and I'll just sort of piece them together, and then it's up to the rest of the band to arrange all that, like collaboratively.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So when playing in different bands with different styles, do you find yourself listening to that style of music to prepare for the gig?
In what way? The songs specifically, or the
That's the
entirety
question.
of the genre?
I think. I mean, I'm sure your set lists vary pretty wildly, so maybe this isn't a.
Yeah. Short answer, no.
Okay.
I just,
You're probably able to separate it like as work, though, as sort of a separate thing, right?
that's part of it for sure. Like I don't. The funny thing, I love telling people this. Like the number one music that I play right now is country music, and I've been doing it for 5 years, and it's not my favorite style of music. Like not even close. So like I don't listen to it on a regular basis. I only listen to it when I'm learning it, or if it just kind of like happens. Like okay, every now and then I'll want to listen to something, but like. Usually not. And I haven't needed to simply because I played the same stuff for the last however many years. Switching over to something that's more of a rock or pop thing, it's a little bit more likely for me to listen to it just because. But even that, probably not. Like, I just don't listen to music as much if I'm trying to get into that feel because I guess I don't really have it. Like, I don't know. Like, I want to try to go into it as naturally as I can and be like, obviously I want to try to play the role, but I also want to do what I'm going to do. Like whether or not I'm trying to sound like something, I'm still going to sound like myself, whether I'm trying to do that or not is kind of, I don't know if that's really the point to make or not, but like I could try all night to sound like a really good blues guitar player and I'm still going to sound like me trying to do that. Like I know myself pretty well. I know exactly what's going to happen if I'm playing over song ABC or whatever.
Yeah. So Doug's asking in the chat sort of a follow-up. Like perhaps if you have a wedding gig that's heavy on a particular genre, do you listen to anything in that genre that's not on the set list for inspiration or insight into technique or convention, style, feel, whatever?
I bet someone who's a lot better than me probably would.
I feel like if I was asked to be in a wedding band, I would do that. But I do not play in wedding bands. Like that's the thing.
Right.
You have this other experience, like this history of playing guitar in this way that I think requires you to not have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that kind of keeps coming back to my head with all these, like with this conversation is the fact that like a lot of the stuff repeats itself. If you've played it one way for a little while, enough to be dangerous to go do it with somebody else. And there's like legit songs that like we could list off that like are a great example of that very like idea. And like I won't go listen to more songs by the Killers just to figure out how Mr. Brightside is played because I've been playing Mr. Brightside for 7 years. like
Sure. Okay.
in varying different ways.
Yes.
So like if you know it well enough, you can get by.
Got it.
You don't need to go listen to the rest of the Killers to figure that out if you've been playing it for long enough.
That makes
So
sense. Yeah.
I think it's a case by case basis.
Mhm.
I will be honest, if I have to get into like something that's out of my element, such as like metal or something like that, yeah, I'd probably would be in a situation where I'd have to do a lot of homework and research on that type of thing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it would necessarily be stuff that isn't what I'm working on per se, unless there's something that I happen to end up liking and just kind of go from there, which is possible. Like that's not out
Yeah.
of the realm of possibility.
So I'm going to take this question a little bit because like I don't play in different bands, but I do try to learn a lot of other styles of guitar and other styles of music because I think I can take something from it and apply it to what I'm doing in my, pop punk emo band kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm like metal is not my favorite genre, but I do listen to a lot of it and I try to learn the stuff that really grabs me because the physical technique of that is so fascinating to me. And I just really want to be able to have those chops at the ready. Basically, I want that left hand, right hand communication. I want the dexterity. I'm not going to go start a metal band though.
Right.
But
it's just your parlor trick.
Yeah, and every now and then I try to learn 12 bars of a Periphery song, and then I drop my pick or something.
I remember I used to want to do I used to want to learn how to play what's that really big song by Dillinger Escape Plan that everybody loved for like
I don't know, man.
You know the one I'm talking about. They had a really, really big popular song that like was the most ridiculous guitar part I've ever seen. And I was like, I'm trying to read it or like, read it, listen to it, whatever. And I'm like, I would love to be able to do that. And I literally, still to this day, I probably couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. I think Dillinger Escape Plan has probably the best band name in music. I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't really know or care much about them, but that is one of the coolest friggin' band names. Anyway.
I also like Tony Danza's Tap Dancing Extravaganza.
Let's not ruin this with a lot of talk.
Okay. I mean, that's a great name. It's a great name. It's a great name. I actually, okay, to be fair, I couldn't tell you what they sound like, but
doesn't matter what the band is. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you if they're a folk band or they're probably not a folk band, but like I couldn't tell you what they sound like. I just love that name.
All right. I like this next question a lot. If you could go through your musical journey and career all over again, would you do anything differently? And I think, what would that thing be? This is not a yes or no question.
So the first thing that comes to mind, and this is kind of a cheap answer. I would have been a slightly better student in high school, so I would have gotten into Berkeley.
Okay.
I passed my audition, but my grades in hhigh school kept me out of the school.
Got it. Interesting.
And so who knows what that would have changed for me moving forward? Because just because you go to Berkeley doesn't mean it's all like you're all ready to go. But I probably would have started there and seen if I could actually have gotten in and what I could have done at that school. I like where I went, though. I like Lowell a lot. I actually have a lot of love for UMass Lowell's music department. With that aside, probably not. I mean, I did pretty well for myself. I'm still doing pretty well. I definitely have some experiences in my back pocket that I've really enjoyed, and I could have found myself doing cool things probably in more than one scenario. But I'm very happy with the way things have gone. So change it, maybe here and there, maybe, but like overall, I don't think, I kind of had this idea in my head when I was first starting doing a lot of work that like, don't say no to anything. Try to do as much as you can. And I still stand by that. Like, even if it means you have to drive all over Hell's Creation for like 3 weeks straight, which I've done numerous times, like, just do it. Because you don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. If you're not big on doing that for like a lot of work for a little return, then you can go a different route with it. So I don't really think the traveling aspect of gigging, like a busy gig schedule, should be a deal breaker all the time. But besides little things like that, no, I don't know if I would change a whole lot. I like where I ended up. I mean, the experiences and the people you meet are not to sound like a Hallmark card, but that's really
Well,
what it is. Like
it's
I've
true.
been to I've
Yeah.
played some pretty cool places, and I've made great friends in the process of doing it. So I did okay,
Yeah,
and I
good.
don't think
That's great.
I wouldn't change it.
I wish I could read music. I wish I had kept up with reading actual sheet music because there was a
Hmm.
time when I could, when I was a kid, and like I got it. It was no problem. And then at some point it just sort of fell apart. I don't know what it was, but maybe it was just like growing up distractions. Maybe it was because I wasn't pursuing guitar as like a job, and I didn't want to go to
Right,
school to be a guitarist at that point. I knew that,
right,
but
right,
I do occasionally, not that I run into sheet music very often in my, walk of life, but
right.
every now and then it would be nice to go like flip through actual sheet music for an album or for something that is really well known and just have it and know it and be
Oh
able
yeah.
to
Yeah.
grab that and do it.
I have an
I
entire score of The Rite of Spring,
mhm,
and I can't do anything with it, but I just like looking at it.
mhm.
I could read it, but like I also don't have a 40-piece orchestra or whatever the number is. I can read,
Yeah.
and the only thing where reading comes in to play is for the theater gigs that I do. Other than
Mm.
that, you know, um, but yeah, I mean, like you can also just, for $45 an hour, I'll teach you how to do it.
I mean, so I can remember what it was about sheet music that I knew. Because guitar was not my first instrument, but then when I switched to guitar, the tonal range of that instrument expanded the staff so much that I was like not.
Yep.
It threw me way off because I had started by playing clarinet, and it's such a focused uh, register.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a very big, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
So
you move to guitar, it's like
right.
twice as large as
It's
that.
twice as large. And then like, well, there's all these notes that are above and below the actual staff. Like, what the hell does that look like? What does that mean? And I had already been like so baked in with this other range that it just
Yeah.
kind of threw me off and it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
discouraging. And I was seeing a lot of progress with guitar by ear training. I humble brag, I guess. I have a really good ear for figuring out stuff just by trying it.
Yeah.
And so when you have a lot of when
having
you
a
have
good ear in
success with
general
that,
is just good.
yeah, when you have success with that, it's hard to stay interested in sheet music,
I get that.
I think. And like, let's be real, tabs.
Dude. Well, don't be so quick. A lot, like, I feel like tabs are even like I have, I'm not going to shit all over my students tonight, but like some of my students in the early days, they really did struggle even with tab. Like, I'm not really sure if that's like
Mhm.
I'd be hard pressed to say that that's like like sweeping across the nation with guitar students. I feel like that's not a problem everywhere, but it could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like, because to me, tabs have always been like the easy part.
Oh
But,
yeah, it's I when I
But
was learning,
it can still trip people up.
when tabs were presented to me, it was like, this is how you can learn a song real quick. And it's like but it's not the way. It's not what you want to be doing. It's just sort of like it's there and it'll get you by in a pinch sort of thing.
Yeah. Tabs
Um,
lack most of the time. Tabs lack the rhythmic aspect, and that's
They
really
definitely
hard.
do.
That's
Yeah.
really hard to guess if you don't know. So, quick story. One of my students had his last lesson today. He's moving to Sweden for a year.
Wow.
So, for a fun little thing today, we learned the Swedish national anthem,
Oh, rad. What
which
a great
I don't
idea.
know. I've never had to
Right.
learn that on a gig.
Yeah.
So-
Not in many set lists.
no, it's not in set list. No. So I'm looking around Google. It's like, okay, how the fuck am I gonna figure this out? And there's a tab for it. And I was like, okay, this
Like, I
isn't
guess
gonna
I'll
do
just
me
play
any
it
good
all
because it
quarter
doesn't
notes or
give me
something?
it doesn't give me quarter notes. It doesn't give me eighth notes. It doesn't I don't know anything about. So in that, that's a very specific scenario.
Yeah.
However,
Yep.
so I in theory, if I knew the tune, it would have been just fine. But I don't just know the Swedish national anthem. So,
Yeah, that's funny.
but
Okay, next question. What is your favorite type of gig, and do you always feel prepared? Air quotes, prepared. I guess that means, do you feel prepared for your
yeah,
favorite
are those
gigs?
mutually exclusive? Do I always
For
feel prepared for my favorite gig?
your favorite type of gig, do you look forward to it and think like, I don't need to get ready for this. I got
Yeah.
this, you know?
So it's interesting because one of my favorite types of, I mentioned it earlier, one of my favorite types of gigs has always been theater.
Hmm.
Because it's one of the things, not to knock everything else I do, but it's one of the few things that still challenges me to that level.
Mhm.
Like reading a book for a show, depending on the show, is a pain. And like there's just so much. I think I've posted photos in the Discord before. Like there's so much sometimes. Sometimes there's nothing, and then other times it's everything.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there are some shows that are super complicated. Like I guess right now there's like this running joke that like every guitar player who plays through the Hamilton book like leaves with a hand injury. You know, like,
Okay.
so like preparing for a musical show, like a musical gig. Yeah, actually, there's quite a lot of prep that goes into that. And yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I've gone into it almost cold. Like sometimes I've jumped onto a theater gig and they don't give you the book until you show up for the first rehearsal.
Mm.
So there's sight reading involved sometimes with that. Depends on how many times you've done. Like I've done Shrek like 18 times, so like I know Shrek relatively well.
Yeah.
But I still like having. I don't. Nobody memorizes a musical. Nobody memorizes a musical.
It's so funny because like I learned all the songs I know are memorized, and
Yep.
this includes my whole catalog of original music that I've written over all these years, as well as any song I learned along the way, like covers and just
Easy,
songs.
Doug. Easy.
I'm just saying. You're happy with your life having played Shrek the Musical 18 times?
Easy. First of all, it's been like 7. Okay, haven't you heard of an exaggeration before?
So anyway, I'm saying
7
here,
is still a lot, though.
it is a lot. Yeah, like maybe time to re-examine. Like everything I do is memorized, and like as some summers ago, before I was in my band, a friend of mine did a small, very small church production of Footloose and asked me to play guitar in it. And I was like,
yeah.
yeah, let's go. And she handed me the book.
Book
And I
1
was
or
like,
2,
oh,
do you remember?
Footloose
book
1
1.
or 2. Yeah, yeah. I'm gosh,
Because I've only done that show once, and I was actually book 2 for that.
I can't remember. But it was like it was just me, my friend Taylor on bass, and a drummer and a piano. And like that was it. It was very bare bones. And it was like, oh, the book, I don't need the like I'll just learn all the songs and I'll just keep them in here and everything will be fine. I'll just not that I was like elitist about it, but I was like, oh right, like people sight read and people like learn the music and then read it live then when they're performing. Like it was so removed for me.
Yeah, it's a very different beast. It's a very different beast.
It was, and I was like, God, and theater music is nothing like radio, pop, or rock music.
No,
so you really need the book,
unless you're talking about like Mamma Mia or like
we just had a huge conversation about Mamma Mia like 4 days ago. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's because there's a lot of even like so. I did a short run of the American Idiot musical.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's all written out, but it also like they get redone. Like the songs got rearranged for the show. So they even still will be a little bit different than like the album version of American Idiot.
Interesting. Yeah.
So like, and they probably, I mean, I didn't really like go like a page by page comparison, but there were some changes in there that were like little additive things that are just sort of like, typical theater. I don't want to use the word cliches, but stuff that you would expect to see in a show
or something.
Like
that. The styling of musical theater.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is a great question. How do I keep my band members from? How do I keep my band members or people I'm auditioning for finding out that I'm a fraud? I have a great answer for this. Call them a fraud first.
I love it. I mean, you could just not go.
Right, yeah.
Just not show up at all.
Read the room. If you're pretty sure they're going to call you a fraud, just get out of there.
Read the room.
How do you prepare for a gig with a new group for the first time, or I guess like a new artist for the first time? I don't know if it's just about the gig or if it's like the starting up with a new group, like those early rehearsals and introductions.
Yeah. I think for myself, with experience in these situations that I've had myself, let the songs do the work for you.
Hmm.
Like, if you're all getting in the same room to play this list of songs, make sure you know the songs really well, and then just sort of like go from there. As far as like the camaraderie and like friendships that you can like make from that comes in time. Like that shouldn't be
Hmm.
something that's forced, I don't think. Um, I mean,
Well, I think
you
like,
can probably figure out pretty quickly if you're going to jive with somebody or not.
mhm.
But don't be so quick to judge on that. If if the song, like worry about the music first. I
I
would
think
think.
also like don't let the songs be the hang up. So like if you do know them really well, that is not a thing that you have to worry about in regards to the interpersonal aspect of it. It's not like
Yeah,
someone's going to have a like, oh, you blew the song but you still want to be friends, and like
yeah.
that's uncomfortable.
Like we're all here to do the same thing. Let's make sure that thing gets done and it
Yeah.
sounds good. And all the rest is kind of easy at that point. Sometimes.
Right, cuz it's like the song is the important thing. The music is the important thing in that
Yeah,
context. So,
definitely, definitely.
if you can do that, you know, no questions asked basically, then everything else is just like meeting any other person, musician or not.
Right.
That's
And I
my
think,
guess.
I mean,
I say
and
this like
I
I
guess
have any experience.
well, I guess the level. I don't want to see like not to I'm not what this. I'm not really big on comparison. Like I'm not going to compare like a
Yeah.
band I work with to like Delaney necessarily. Like they
Yeah,
might be
it's a super
different in a
different
lot of
game.
ways, but I'm not one to like do that. Like so I think the tier level of the band that you are getting into can kind of tell you what to expect with something like that.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, can I get away with only kind of learning the songs if it's going to be like a good hang? And like, if
Right.
I'm the only one caring that much, then I have to kind of reevaluate what my thought process is with this.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if there's four other dudes in the room that don't care nearly as much as I do, then I'm probably okay. Because if you know that you
Hmm.
can swing with the songs, then everything, it's nice to be the big fish if you can figure out that you're the big fish. You know.
Yeah.
And
That's a
that's
good
not
way.
a
Yeah,
power
good way to put
move.
it.
That's not a power move. That is not necessarily a power move. That's just you. We are it's like you said in the beginning. Okay, my guitar tone's pretty good. I know that, but I'm also a really good guitar player. I know that too. So
Yeah. So like
just
lean on
show up
that.
to do what you're gonna do, and that's cool. Like I guess if we're talking about something, maybe the band is a startup, and like you're all sort of strangers to each other. That's one thing. But like if you're coming into a group that they know what they do already, that's a little trickier. But at the same time, like
So
own
yeah,
it.
I mean, I
Do
can
what you
speak
came
to
to
this a
do.
little bit. Like when I joined Delaney, they had an album out. They had three members. They had four. I was replacing one because the guy decided to leave. So it was like they're established. There is there is a library of music that I need to learn, and I'm gonna learn it how I learned all the other songs I've learned my whole life. Just you know, covering it basically, playing along.
Yep.
Um, and like I was not concerned with my skill as a musician. I was not concerned with my tone because I had that locked in. But I was concerned with um, playing the songs to their accuracy, and
Sure.
like that was the part I took really seriously. I wasn't
Because
really
they knew
like,
it as one way already.
yes. And I wanted to
And
like
like
really recreate that for the
right.
purposes of keeping the band going until
If
things had been rolling long enough like it is now where I can sort of take the
if they
reins with that a
wanted
little more.
changes, they would have asked you about it.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. So I put a lot of pressure on that to like really learn the record the way that it was played. And
Yep.
now, these years later, I'm taking some liberties with that.
Yeah.
Even though they still feel like this. I find this is a really funny thing. We talk about it on the podcast sometimes. Like we say that's a Justin demo, that's a me demo, because I can just tell like that's something I would have played,
Yeah.
even if it was like 10 years ago or something, right?
Yeah. I bet
Playing
I could
someone
probably
else's
be the same way.
playing someone else's music in original bands is super weird because it's like this is not something I would play ever. But I play it all the time now. And
Right.
it's still not something I would play.
Right.
So yeah. Okay, we have a last question that was a recording time submission from Doug in the chat. Do you try to hone your tone Hashtag hone your tone.
Hone your tone.
Do you try to dial in your tone as as a self-satisfying endeavor, or because you think it
Oh.
legitimately enriches the music and the
Oh.
audience's ability to enjoy it, or just like in hopes that someone in the audience is also someone who cares about it because they are a guitarist or a musician or something, or some mix of all of the above? I'm going to add a layer to this. Are you concerned with matching tone to
Oh man, you're a dick.
to the song, the cover
okay.
songs?
Okay, so
I'm going to put this question back in the chat so you can see it, because it's kind of a long one.
Can I? Can
Why
you use
do
it
we
in a
tone?
sentence?
What is
Why do we tone? Okay,
How does one tone?
so I kind of go at this with I try to go at this with a very simplistic approach. I'm going to use an example. Okay, I'm going to use drive as an example because, arguably speaking, different types of drive is probably the most common and popular form of guitar tone, I would say, between overdrive, distortion, fuzz, or clean. I would say that's probably one of the, or EQ.
Well,
Yeah,
EQ happens in drive
EQ.
pedals too, but okay.
But yeah, so like, I'm going to stick with a drive sound for this. And really at that point, it really is kind of like, there's a couple of factors that go into play here. Like, how much of a student of guitar tone are you? How much can you pick up on hearing something, whether it's like, is that definitely like a mild overdrive, or is it like a super gated fuzz or something like that? Like, those are very two extreme examples. However, which one is which. And, so I kind of, and then you kind of mix in what you also like yourself. So if it's like something that's a little bit more, like maybe it's older from like the 70s or something like that, and like, I don't need some crazy super modern sounding drive sound, I might go with something like a light overdrive, or something that's a little bit, it's not too in your face. And like, I have my entire little category of drive pedals that I use for that reason. So like, if one guy uses this effect on it, I might use this one, and they might be completely different, but they're serving the same purpose to me.
Yes.
So like, not to get too like the Tube Screamer job doesn't do the Klon job and vice versa, but like I still swap them out because I
think I would agree with that. Like, yes, EQ wise they're very different, but they are also occupying the same like low to medium gain overdrive space.
Right. Or boosting or whatever
right. They can serve the same category, but the sound is still different.
And that's where your personal taste can come into play. Because I hate Tube Screamers. I've said it before on the I don't like Tube Screamers. I don't own one right now. I went from owning 3 to owning none. So, I just like what the Klon does more. So I use a Klon for that job than a Tube Screamer. And like, I know that they're not the same. I get it.
Yeah, but that's not the point. And I think being concerned
it's
of
my
whether
gig,
or not
not yours. Let me do it the way I want.
Right. And also like if that's such a thing, right? If the tone is inspiring to you and it can evoke a better performance or a different kind of performance out of you, the player, then who cares?
Right.
Right. Like, what's the thing we sent around in the chat the other day? Like, oh my God, are you not familiar with doing whatever the fuck you want?
Okay. I do like that one a lot.
Imagine living your life that way.
I don't know. Like this can be a very convoluted answer, and I think that probably sums it up in a pretty easy way. Like, I'm going to do what makes sense because I do consider myself a student of guitar tone. Like, if I'm doing something from the 80s, it was probably done either on a Marshall or on a Roland JC 120 or something like that. Like, so, like I have the pillars that I can kind of build off of. And I'm looking at my stuff that I use. I'm like, okay, I can probably use this to do that job and this to use that, and that can do that. And then before I know it, I'm done with my gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And
we
that's
have
the thing.
staples that we always use, and that's great. That can change. Like, I mean, we joke about it all the time. I think I counted the other day. Oh shit, 14 overdrives, something like that.
Right. And
I
think
bound to work.
Yeah, right. Doug says authenticity. Like, that's the thing. As far as like the audience, they don't care. Right. There might be a thing of like, an audience member can tell the difference between a clean tone and a fuzz tone. And they will know if something is off based on you're playing this part that's supposed to be fuzz, but you're playing it clean.
Right.
Obviously, that's a major difference. But like, no non-musician in the crowd is going to be like, I think he should be using a tube screamer.
Yeah. Ooh, is that a blues driver, or is that
Yeah.
what you should? Like nobody's ever come up to me and said that.
Right.
Like
And
you always get the guy, like you always get the dudes who like they might know a few things, and then they come, oh, I've never seen that pedal there before. Where'd you get that? Like
Yeah.
you know, like there's always that conversation.
Mhm.
But not once have I ever been like, oh man, you should have used the distortion on that part. I really wanted to hear the distortion on that part.
Instead of 2 overdrives. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
That's a stupid thing.
Like,
right. And
I'm taking a bath in that guy. Like,
yeah, well, it's like when the Soul Food came out, right? It's like $70. It's a clone versus
I had it for a little while.
I did too. And versus something like a Mjolnir or a KTR or even a real clone. Does the audience care?
No,
Nope.
it doesn't care.
No way. And so I have this like huge, I want to do some
We
kind
should
of
do a
study.
thing where like we go into a club and like you have like a real clone versus like a soul food, and you should be like, do you care about one of these more than the other one?
Yeah, which one do you think sounds better? and articulate to me why.
Yeah, it's like are the upper mids like right in the are they perfect for your ear, or like is it like just a little bit worse?
Yeah, and like let's
on
not
this
forget
one?
that every room sounds different. Every like mic on your cab sounds different, and like everything is going to sound different. And that kind of stuff doesn't actually matter. But yeah, I mean, I like to consider. I like to study tone. Right? It is. I just enjoy crafting and tweaking tone a little bit here and there, and I don't personally consider, like, for me, it's totally self-satisfying. And I think my tone,
totally,
of course, has evolved over my guitar playing years. But when I joined Delaney, I was like, this is the tone I'm bringing to this band. So,
right. And as long as it wasn't like grossly out of left field, they probably didn't notice a big difference.
No, and it was like maybe a little gainier, or like the mid range was different than their old guy, but it's still like that stuff. I was like, this is what I play, and it's kind of what I enjoy the most, and it makes me want to play my guitar rig. So that's what we're working with. Right. And if that's a problem, then like we've got a different issue. Like I'm not going to go change my whole guitar rig just to satisfy a 5-track EP.
Right.
So
Doug brings up a good point. Like there really isn't any one way to do this, and that's, I mean,
no, there
really
isn't.
That's what makes it so great.
Yeah, right. And like with tools like Helix, or even like you have an Iridium, like you can be like, I'm doing a big tone. I want to like do a Marshall stack. Like, yeah, I would never actually play a Marshall stack in real life for anything serious, but I can through Helix type things for the fun of it, for the occasional, like just want to see what it feels like to play that kind of tone or whatever.
Yeah.
But like
there are way too many ways to get pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get you where you need to be for literally any guitar sound you could think of or not think of.
Yeah. I don't think it's so much the audience. I think I'm really fascinated with this whole thing about like why musicians do all the little nuanced things they do.
Yeah.
And
we've talked about it a lot. Like, like, who are you playing for?
And whether or not that influences the listener, or if it is, because there's some things on certain records you hear like that's a little trick for the guitarists in the crowd. I can't tell you how many shows I've been to where like Beth and I are there and something happens on stage, not visually, but musically. And I'm like, dude, or like I'm laughing about it or something. And she's like, what? I missed it. What happened? I'm like, I can't even explain it to you.
Did I ever tell you my story when Sam gifted me tickets to go see Mayer one year for my birthday?
Nice.
Did I tell you the story? No, maybe I haven't.
I don't think so.
And like, so about halfway through the night, she looks over to me and I'm literally standing there, my hands on my chin like this, and I'm going like this. And I think he was doing like slow dancing or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of sitting here and I'm like very obviously like analyzing
focused.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, focused. Right, exactly. And she looks over to me and is like, are you serious right now? I'm like, what? I'm sorry. This is
why we're here.
This this is what I'm doing. Like I'm looking, like I can kind of see the Dumble from where I was standing, and like I'm like, God, I would love to be on that stage right now. And like I'm thinking, I'm sitting here, like, can I like? And I was analyzing it, and I wasn't doing it on purpose per se. It's just kind of what happens, and
it's just what happens. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this.
Fun. Oh, I'm having a lot of fun.
This is the most fun. Yeah.
Au contraire, my hot. I'm having a great time.
We've talked about this. Doug asked Justin a while ago if like his education and background in recording and engineering has changed how he listens to music. Absolutely. And I think the same happens for students of any instrument. Like when you listen to music with that instrument in it, you are just inherently analyzing something about it.
Yes.
Whether it's tone or playing style or whatever. The way I listen to music is not, I don't listen to like the song as a total package the first time through. Like I'm listening to individual parts and like, what is this tone and why did they do it that way? And like, I wonder how you play that. And that's a cool rhythmic sequence with the vocals. I don't know what the words are, but it's a cool rhythmic sequence and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it just, we love what we do, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Like, is it some mix of all of the above? Yes, obviously. I think there is no correct answer. However, I think most guitarists, I think, are chasing tone in some capacity.
Yes.
But I think just lean into that. Chase it, go after it, dude. And like the point is to chase it for the chase, not because of the end. I think that's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of people that are like, if I could just do this, I just need like a Klon type pedal or whatever to really round out this sound, or I need a 6V6 amp instead of this 6L6.
I think I really need a 1981.
He said with a 1981 on order. Yes. Do you know what I mean though? Like it's not about the end, it's about the journey. Like I hate saying that, but with this kind of thing, it's like super true. The GIF game in the chat is very strong.
Yeah.
It's really like just embrace that chase and do it for the chase. Like there's always going to be a better thing. There's always going to be a better 1981 thing coming out,
Right.
Just lean into that. Admit it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, it's like, so just last night, I put that idea to the test where I went to a recording session for a guy and I used a completely new rig that I hadn't used before. Yeah. I used the Vox amp, which I haven't had very long and haven't used in that capacity yet, and effects that I haven't used with that amp before. Well,
or in that configuration.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
and I was just like, just grip it and rip it. Let's go. And it worked out great. And I can't wait to hear what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And the guy he loved it, and it worked, and it was great. And that's all it is, right? And I did what I was asked to do, and I sounded good doing it. And I didn't care about my distortion pedal, and I didn't care about my delay. I didn't even use delay.
I think that's
all dry.
You need.
Everything was dry.
Somebody ages ago, I forget who, I don't know who it was. Somebody was asking me like signal path stuff, right? Should this go before this, or like how should I? Guy was like a friend of mine from college. Like he was buying some pedals for the first time, simple stuff. Like he bought a tube screamer, a big muff, a wah pedal, like all these just like
tube screamer into the big muff.
Right, but I was explaining
wah pedal up front, tube screamer into.
Right, there are conventions for this. Because we've all kind of experimented with the same thing and come to the same conclusions largely.
Right.
But I was like, they all work in any order, and that's up to you. Like that's the point of this, is just try it. It's just Velcro. Just tear it up and do it again. And that's kind of the goal, and that was a little bit lost on him at the time.
Yeah. I could see that. Well, I mean, look at I've known my entire life to put delay at the very end. And then Biffy Clyro comes along and puts it in front of everything.
Yeah, what
Did you know that?
Lunatic. No, I know he plays a Metal Zone, but,
but he puts delay in front of everything.
See, like,
isn't that wild?
It is. And
isn't that wild?
That band kicks ass. So like,
Right.
who am I
And
to
you think,
judge?
do you think the non-guitar players who love that band are like, oh wow, that delay, that's in front of the distortion pedal?
I mean, somebody out there is like, that's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, there's probably quite a few. But you go and listen to it, think, it doesn't sound wrong.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, and Doug is saying there's some combinations that play nicer than others. That's totally true.
Yes.
Especially for things that are like very sensitive, like types of fuzz and wahs and stuff. There are definitely more correct ways to do that than others. But
Yeah, like just don't use a wah. Just don't bother with.
yeah, throw it in the trash.
Yeah, it goes in the garbage.
But
Goes
like
in front of the trash can on garbage day.
like I prefer phaser before my drive stage, but then everything else after my drive stage. And I know that's not super common for a lot of people, but I just think it sounds better. And whatever, like Matt in Delaney puts his volume pedal at the end. So it's a master volume.
I've done that for theater gigs because like the one time my delay trail goes during the silent part and the director looks at me and goes like that. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, like that's a specific case, but like Matt's preference is to have the volume at the end so it can master attenuate the whole signal. Whereas mine has always been mine is always in the front pre-drive because I want it to act like the volume on my guitar.
Yeah. And I get that. But I use, the volume on my guitar to do that.
You do that, right? Yeah. So, although now I gotta say, now on Helix, it doesn't matter what that foot pedal's doing because I can assign it to whatever the shit I want.
Yeah. But see, there you go. Technology is making our lives easier,
dude. The new rig right now is the expression pedal on the Helix is operating as a volume pedal, except when you click it down because there is a clicky switch under it, like a wah pedal that engages expression pedal 2. So I have that foot switch tied to turning on a tremolo, and then the sweep of the pedal is the rate of that tremolo.
Oh, wow.
And it's killer.
So when you turn a wah pedal on,
when you click the expression down, it turns on.
It turns on, and then you're controlling. Would you say the rate?
The rate, yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
It's great. I love it because tremolo sounds the best when you can vary some aspect of it, whether it's the depth or the rate or the shape or something like that. It is way more dynamic, especially for like the music I'm doing. It's way more dynamic and engaging than just this static rhythmic pulse. And if I want that, I just leave the expression pedal where it is.
Right.
It's killer.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. God, that really, I mean, even so the switch underneath like basically an expression pedal, that really, right there, that opens up a whole new...
Yeah, so that switch that's under there, you can turn on any parameter in Helix. You can set it to...
That's such a good idea.
It's such a good idea. And then, so there's the single pedal, but it is expressions 1 and 2, right? So the click switches between expressions 1 and 2, except the click can also bypass something.
Right. That's cool. Simultaneously?
Yes. So the click is engaging expression 2 and can be set to bypass something. And then you can express whether like the volume pedal is just an expression on a volume block, so to speak.
Gotcha.
So
that's wild.
You can set it for rate, depth, and like you could express between all of the different microphone options on cabinets, right? This is a stupid thing to do, but one could do it.
Yeah. And maybe you guys have said it on the show before, like they've invented stuff that we don't know how to use yet.
Yeah, they've given us this toolbox. And so,
I don't know what situation I would be in where I would need to do that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I never knew until right now, but I've always wanted to do this.
And other crap, like because of the digital signal path, you can put a speaker before the amplifier.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Which like
that's cool.
Again, a dumb thing, but it's possible.
It's wrong somewhere.
Yeah. And so now, like, we're experimenting with this at practice. I'm going to save this for the next show probably, but we set up my Helix to run an in-ear rig for me.
Oh, yeah.
Got right here now. I've got a little pack of in-ears.
Very nice.
And it's like the sends, the returns, the ins and outs. And like I've got friggin' 6 cables coming in and out of this thing, and it doesn't break a sweat.
Was the band welcoming to in-ears? Or did you guys already use them?
Kurt and Matt use in-ears. Drums and vocal, guitar, piano
Okay.
use
All right.
in-ears. And
So they're not like completely new to it.
no. And we play to a click live. That's how they get the click.
Gotcha.
And as well as backing tracks. And then they just basically take the monitor mix off the board, and instead of sending it through a stage wedge, they just send it to their in-ear.
Yep.
So they can still communicate with sound guy. I need more guitar. I need more bass, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, I bet we can just send the click to the return of Helix, which I could send to the headphone out of Helix and listen to it, as well as listen to my guitar, as well as listen to like all the other stuff in the band. So it's super complicated. I still don't actually totally know how it works, but it worked.
Don't question it. Just do it.
It just works. So, okay, let's wrap this up. I have a suggestion of the week. I hope you do as well.
I do.
Okay, my suggestion of the week.
Imagine if we had the same ones.
That'd be fucking great.
My
suggestion. You want to say it at the same time? No.
1, 2.
My suggestion is a YouTube channel. This guy Mike Boyd. He's a Scottish YouTuber, and he does this thing where he just tries to learn something new, some skill, some task, something like that, and times how long it takes to go from never having done the thing to being able to do the thing. And he catalogs the whole learning journey. So he's done stuff like Rubik's Cubes. He's done juggling, how to do a wheelie on a bicycle, how to spin a basketball on your finger. They're mostly like physical things like this.
Yeah. What's been your favorite?
The salmon ladder from Ninja Warrior, I think, is one of the best ones.
Okay.
Which is like the
wife
pull-up,
watches that show.
the pull-up bar that is.
Oh, that like you can move.
You jump and like notch it up a step each time.
Yeah.
Throwing a boomerang, like he's got all these great videos, and he times it, and he tells you like it took me 6 hours and 18 minutes to learn how to do this over the course of 4 days, or something like that, and he times it all out, and you see his progress, and it's endearing and exciting, and you're like so happy that he learned how to do the thing, and it just makes you want to get up and try to do the thing also.
You feel like a part of his accomplishment. Yeah,
and it's simple stuff. It's not like complicated, heavy-duty brain work stuff. It's a lot of like simple things like he had this bicycle that was engineered so when you turn the handlebars to the right, the wheel turns to the left.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to, like, he sets a goal. I want to ride this bike for 100 meters without falling off. That's the goal. How long will it take? And then they just, here we go. He says, this is day 1, hour 0. Start the clock. And he just starts trying to do whatever task. And he makes these awesome videos. So
that's cool.
His name is Mike Boyd. I would definitely recommend it. I've been just binging the whole channel lately. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, very cool.
What about you?
My suggestion of the week is Mike Boyd. No. So I've been listening to it's a podcast that I've been listening to this podcast for a few years now. It's called Lore. Do you know Lore?
No.
So Lore is a podcast put on by a guy named Aaron Mahnke, who I believe is actually a Massachusetts guy. I think he's based in the North Shore. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure he's like mentioned it in his show before. And it's like this
wow.
I won't use the word scripted per se, but it's like a very well put together walkthrough of a particular topic of folklore or like legend stuff and things like that. Like he's gone through everything from like that super. Remember the? I feel like it's based on there's a book about it. There was like a hotel in Chicago where like a lot of murders happened. By this one guy.
I don't know that, but the tagline of the show is sometimes the truth is more frightening than fiction, and it looks like it's a nonfiction scary story show.
Yeah. All
right.
So he's gone through all this stuff. Like this week's episode, it's funny too because Tone Control is every other week. Lore falls on the other Monday.
Oh hell yeah!
So like I go one Monday is Tone Control, one Monday is Lore. So. Like this past week was he went through like a bunch of stories of about lighthouse keepers and all the crazy shit that happens to people who work at Lighthouse.
I'm downloading that right now.
And it's like it's cool. You know, I mean, he's done stuff on like he did like a haunted episode on the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and like all these different things. And
That's very cool.
It's a really, really cool show. He has other shows that he does too. It's like this little network. I think he finally came out with like a company that does a bunch of shows. He's a pretty cool dude. Very good storyteller, like really good, like it sounds really good. He also uses like I'm assuming someone, you know, like, you know, there's a piano player who like has all of this original music that kind of accompanies the show too. It's really good.
Nice. Okay.
And, you know, so and there's a lot of cool stories that he's done in the past. So it's definitely, if you're into like, cause I'm into a lot of that type of stuff. As much as I'm into guitar, I'm also into like folklore and all these things. So
I'm just reading the website.
It's a really good show. There's a lot of shows. This is one of my favorites that is in like this topic.
Cool. All right.
So
yeah, I'll check that out. I'm kind of in a. I got to do a little podcast purge. I think there's some that I'm just not listening to anymore, and it's fine. And I just need to like get them out of my feeds and really admit to myself that I'm not listening to them anymore.
You know, it's bad. So I was listening to a new episode of one of the ones that I'm questioning today, and starting in August, they're actually moving exclusively to Spotify. So I instantly unsubscribed because like they kind of made the decision for me.
I would have done the same thing.
That was like, it was like, I was actually like relieved. My shoulders dropped. I'm like, okay, if you're getting this excited over a show, like unfollowing a show that you listen to.
Yeah, that's the signal.
That's the signal, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Good suggestions. Mike Boyd on YouTube and Lore, the podcast. Check those out. And hey, man, thanks for joining. Thanks for filling in for Justin. I appreciate it very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I think we had a really good conversation. Yeah, I hope people cool. Enjoyed the answers. And
hopefully, I mean, if they didn't, I can't say I care a whole lot.
Yeah,
but
yeah, whatever.
But
I mean, that's what they get. It was their question. We answered it.
Yeah, they don't have to
like the answer.
They know what this was.
It was nothing. Nothing else entertaining. Yeah, there we go. That's for sure.
Not knowledgeable. It wasn't super knowledgeable. It wasn't like, you know, I didn't learn anything, but it was fun.
Yeah. I'd still like, I'm very just generally interested in the different types of guitarists out there, not just like genre types, but like, you know, you as a working guitarist versus me as a hobby guitarist is such a different world. And I think there's obviously loads of overlap, but it's still pretty different. So I couldn't really do what you do, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you don't.
That's why you do it.
Someone has to. Somebody has
okay,
to.
So let's get out of here. So find the Tone Control everywhere you listen to podcasts, obviously, including YouTube now. And if you really like the show, come hang out in Discord. You can find us at discord.io/tone control, and that'll pop you in the server. There's all kinds of stuff happening here. There's people talking about guitar, obviously, tone, obviously, pedals, obviously. But we've also got things like books. People talk about movies and video games, and even the more technical stuff, music theory things, talking about how to actually play your guitar, and just like whatever else is going on, you know? It's a lot of fun. So you can talk to me, you can talk to Eric, you can talk to Justin, and even Doug. So you can talk to everybody.
Even Doug.
There's like, honestly, there's loads more people in Discord, and the conversation is, you know, it's a slow drip every day of just some cool chatter. So head there.
What's cool? We don't have one dick. Like, there's not that one guy who like nobody wants to talk to.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So if that's like, you, don't join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Doug
says if you have to ask who the dick is, you're probably the dick.
Right. Doug says we're not as cliquey as we might seem at first. I would have to agree. So
I would agree with that.
We just had a new member join today, you know, so it's really good. Discord is open and free to all members of the Tone Control universe. If you're here in the show and you want to join, just join. There's no requirement. You can have access to the fun things. However, if you like what you hear, you can go to patreon.com/ what is it? The Tone Control with the.
I don't know. What is it?
Patreon.com/ the Tone Control. And you can subscribe and pay us $1 a month. This is not $1 per episode because we do 2 episodes a month. This is $1 per month. So it's really like guys, it's like $12 a year. Think about that. Okay. You get a super cool
Like
shout
one
out.
of my gigs.
You get a super cool shout out that's about to come down on all of these suckers.
That's a pizza.
Right. Yeah. Have one less pizza a year and you can subscribe to the Tone Control. You get some extra special love in Discord. You get a cool name tag that everyone knows that you're a paying member and they, you're just like a little bit cooler than the rest of everybody. So now that's all well and good. But if you want for $2 a month, which is still like, let's be real, it's not that much. For $2 a month, you get access to this super rad private chat and recording booth thing that we're doing here. So when you hear us podcasting and you say, oh, the chat's talking about this, that could be you. You could come in and join and heckle and comment and have your own conversations with other listeners live every other Thursday night at 8. So for $2 a month, you get that, a supporter plus thing with an even specialer name tag in Discord. So those patrons for this episode are, so usually Justin reads this, and I almost never read the patrons. And I had thought about making you read that, but I'm gonna
that's a tough ask there.
so I'm gonna let it slide. But I'm gonna make you say your own name. How about that?
Oh, okay.
Those
do it
patrons
Justin style and fuck it all up
for this episode. 191 in the year of our Lord is Matthew Fenslaw, Reisenwolf, Jamie Evans with a V. What is my problem? Jeffrey Wright, Doug King, Doug Gann, Righteous Ryan Johnson's. Oh my God, you guys, this is why I don't do this. Righteous Ryan Johnson, Steve Huffman, Jonas Sabatini, the man himself,
Enrico Gerabilbo.
Enrico Gerabilbo, mark it. Andrew Walsh from Andrew's Alcove, OG friend of the show, Brian Rizzi, Doug Christ of 37FX, Sean Wright of Lollygagger Effects, and Brian Gower and Kyle McIntyre of the Tone Jerks podcast. We thank you all so much for your support, especially Enrico Gerabilbo. I can see you typing. Are you like changing your Discord name now? Love it.
No,
okay.
I'm not.
Love it. All right, folks. We'll be back with things pretty soon. I got a text from Mrs. Justin during the podcast with some more positivity. So everyone is doing really well. Awesome. Send all your kind thoughts and vibes and whatever it is that you can provide. They're doing great, and we'll have more updates soon. So anyway, that's the Tone Control. That's 191. Thank you, Eric, for joining.
Oh, thanks for having.
Of course.
This was cool. I will gladly come back anytime.
Cool. Just kick Justin out.
I did miss the chat,
often.
though. I will say, I didn't focus on the chat at all.
That's all right. You can go back and look at it.
I feel like I need to be back with my people.
Okay, we're out of here. Talk to you soon.
Bye.